Peace, YouTube. What it do? Your boy Jessica Dash back for another video. So, everybody enjoying their Tuesday, their few days for the holiday, you know what I mean? Mainly it's with your family and loved ones and friends, you know what I'm saying? And even though I'm not really big on these pagan holidays and all that, but as long as you're just having fun with your family or doing what you love to do, and you just relaxing, you know what I'm saying? Taking a day off, taking it easy. So, I like doing these videos too because it's like I'll be learning things, right? Same token, but it's interesting what they don't teach you in school, what you find out later on, right? And I've been doing some research once again, and I always thought about the Kellogg's commercial, right? And the Kellogg's cereal brand, and I always wondered, like, yo, that dude, his face, is something about the Kellogg's, right? So I was like, let me look into Kellogg's because some interesting stuff you about to hear about Kellogg's. And you can look this up. You know what I mean? It's right in battlecreekinquiry.com. Fair use, you know what I mean? Where I got this article, right? And this is your boy, Mr. Kellogg. Now remember, certain people praise these people's ideologies, they praise their way of thinking, and they just praise their practices. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people want to adopt a lot of these older people practices and implement it today. But nah, we ain't having that. Right? So here we go, right? Let me start it off. This is your boy Kellogg in his infamous past. They don't talk about, right? So I gotta go back. Okay, here we go. So how John Harvey Kellogg was wrong on race, right? A white guy made this. He edited and made this article, right? But your boy, the Kellogg cereal box, John Harvey Kellogg. So basically, it's a photo, right here. Hundreds of nations' leading physicians, philanthropists, academic politicians, and reformers were seated in the main dining hall of the famed Battle Creek Sanitarium. It's a meeting they had. The man who brought them there is the only one standing, holding a proud posture in his trademark all-white suit. The year was 1914, and the occasion was the first Race Betterment Conference. They don't tell you about this shit in school. Not at all. You can hear about this. Now, this was hosted by John Harvey Kellogg, the same dude who created these cornflakes, right, that you ate when you was younger. Under the auspices of the Race Betterment Foundation, he co-founded. The purpose of the 5-day event was to study the case of and cure for race degeneracy through the lens of the eugenics movement. Part of stuff. That's huge right there alone, because eugenics is dealing with people and their beliefs of, let's just say, race extermination, right? One way or another, almost like with the Jews and other minority groups, they so-called minority, really aboriginals that they killed off, right? So let's just go right into this. Eugenics is a set of beliefs and practices aimed at improving the genetic quality of the human population by excluding genetic groups judged to be inferior and promoting those deemed superior. So it's a form of white supremacy, basically. And your boy John Harvey Kellogg was part of that. He was part of that white supremacist group. You know what I'm saying? And also, dealing with extermination, you had the lady who created Planned Parenthood. She also practiced eugenics. But anyway, its proponents claim that impartially of science, but in practice, they found inferiority mostly among poor people and minorities, and even more particularly among those seen as having failed to know their place. That's white supremacy. That's a belief, a system of I'm right, you wrong because of your skin tone, basically. Complexion for protection. So eugenics, which took hold in the United States in the early 20th century, was presented as a scientific solution to alcoholism, poverty, criminality, sexual promiscuity, feeble-mindedness. It was also based on a poor misunderstanding of genetic inheritance. Many of the traits and characteristics targeted for elimination had little basis in genetics. A belief in white superiority lay at its heart. And by the time eugenics was discredited as a science and by its association with the Nazis in the 1930s and 40s, it had left a dark legacy, particularly in laws permitting the voluntary sterilization of defectives and harsh limits on immigration. John Harvey Kellogg and Battle Creek bear measure responsibility for spreading eugenic ideas and building the movement in America. It's the white supremacy system right here was created, for the most part. People don't realize Battle Creek was an epicenter of the American eugenics movement,
Wow.
said Alexandria Minna Stern, professor at the University of Michigan, author of Eugenic Nation, Faults and Frontiers of Better Breeding in Modern America. This was a state where there were a limited number of medical elites like Kellogg, and they held a lot of sway, meaning they could sway people to do what they say do because they had nobody else to challenge them. And because there was law practitioners, people had to follow them, or not law practitioners, but doctors, and Kellogg's role in advancing the eugenics movement is a dark stain on the legacy of the man in the white suit. In its unsavory episode for a city that celebrates its racially progressive past as a stop on the Underground Railroad and resting place of abolitionists to journey the truth. I'm almost done here. Kellogg devoted the last 30 years of his life to developing the science of eugenics. The famed doctor, older brother of W.K. Kellogg, became a leading voice on health reform while heading the sanitarium and was obsessed with what he called biological living. Kellogg's support of eugenics was tepid to begin with, likely due to eugenics' ties to Darwinism and its connection to the Seventh-day Adventists. All right, let me just get to the chase, right? So basically, at the end, this is what he believed. Kellogg believed if we continued on with our bad habits, we would eventually become extinct, potentially, Wilson said. So there was this larger issue of the human race. But if you drill down a little bit more on his public statements, it's pretty clear that he was really concerned about the white race. The idea of race suicide, popularized by President Theodore Roosevelt, was the notion that middle upper class white Americans were being outbred by inferior races, primarily Southern and Eastern Europeans, blacks, and Asians. Kellogg advocated that the whites return to biological living and avoid race mixing. And he also talked about Kellogg's scientific racism was at times at odds with his personal attitudes, but especially when it came to African Americans. He rejected segregation of blacks at the sanitarium, where African American doctors and nurses were trained. He and his wife, Ella Eaton, fostered more than 40 children, among them African Americans and children from Latin America. Kellogg took great care of Sojourner Truth during her visits to the sanitarium, reportedly grafting some of his own skin to her leg to treat an ulcer, and he personally invited Booker T. Washington to visit as a guest in 1910. Still, Kellogg did not hold African Americans as a race in high esteem. The intellectual inferiority of the Negro male to the European male is universally acknowledged, he wrote in 1902. We can honestly say that there's a bit of white supremacy in this, Wilson said. He was very concerned with Asians of the yellow peril. He was very concerned Asians, especially the Chinese, were able to out-compete the West, he says. If we don't deal with this, we're going to be ruled by Orientals in the future. That's crazy that this man had this mentality in 1900s, right? And I'm gonna finish it off. I don't want to read all this, but I'm gonna get to the main. The main account is showing you how the ideology of certain people and how it went from generation to generation. It started in the 1800s, even before that. But I'm just getting the basis. 1800s. They came with the ideology of eugenics. Like I said, the lady who created Planned Parenthood was trying to sterilize African Americans, just keep it a buck, and not let them be able to reproduce, so they could, almost boost up the European race, right? Battle Creek Chamber of Commerce. So this is the Race Betterment Conference. I'm just trying to get. Okay, he basically was you know is against anything that wasn't European. But also Kellogg's, from what I read, the research on Kellogg's, they said he created the cereal so he could stop masturbation. You know what I mean? This guy was sick. I didn't want to read all that, but I just want it's important to know what's with the past, so you can know the present, so you can tell your children and tell people for the future. And it's not about just everything, you know, black, white, whatever the case. But like I said, it's stuff they don't teach you in school, and it's stuff that's important to know. That's why they're trying to whitewash the pages, because they don't want people to be woke, which they're becoming, and they don't want people to really know the origin of this sick system when it comes to some people's mentality, when it comes to wanting to be inferior and superior of every mass of people, and others who don't have their prowess and their money and power, they consider them inferior. That's your boy, Mr. Kellogg. So every time you look at that box of Kellogg cereal, just think about your boy, John Harvey Kellogg. And his whole idea of he didn't care about cereal. It was about he wanted to curb masturbation, but he also was, he had his own ideology of how the world should be and how he perceived things to be. But he was a racist nonetheless, for the most part. Your boy Dr. Kellogg, right? John Harvey Kellogg. Everybody, please be safe out there. A lot going on in this world. You got all this stuff going on. I don't even want to get into, but you gotta be careful out here because we in the times of low frequency, especially during the holidays when people are low on their luck and their money is short. Crime is gonna be high. You know what I mean? Protons, electrons always cause explosions. Guys, you already know. Peace.